again, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Paul Dottino and the Moose, Marc Malusis, with you for the next hour, and we will talk Giants football at 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. You can also find us on social media at #GiantsChat. The program is simulcast live on the New York Giants YouTube channel. You can also leave questions and comments there as well. For those of you who are too bashful to dial the phone, right? We get some of those.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Okay.
First time, long time. Some
exactly.
people rather punch it on the keyboard.
An archive of this show and our entire podcast network is available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. And as always, we come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Moose, I have had already, between our Sunday show and then yesterday's BBK, an opportunity to really do a deep dive into the Giants draft and what I thought. For those who didn't hear you as part of our threesome on Sunday doing the recap, I think a quick thumbnail on your side of things is probably appropriate.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like, Paul. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. I mentioned it on Sunday and discussed it a little bit on social media as well. I think when you're handed a gift, you don't pass up that gift. And when you go through this entire draft process and you play out scenarios, and even the Giants and Joe Shane talked about the fact that of all the discussions, good, bad, and different, they never really had the discussion in which Arvell Reese was sitting there with the 5th overall selection. And you, John, and I during the pre-draft show or the pre-draft show on WFAN discussed about the fact of if that indeed did happen, what do you do? And we were all in agreement. You take the player, right? You take the player
yes.
Because of what Arvell Reese. And I was surprised by, some of the pushback by, some saying, well, what do you do with them? You already have edge rushers. First off, you never have enough edge rushers in the National Football League. Number two is, I like the fact that the Giants came out and John Harbaugh came out and basically said, he is going to be our will linebacker, and we're going to be really creative in how we use them, and they've got a game plan. It wasn't a kind of a wait-and-see approach, and that's what you like, and that's what has to give confidence for you as a Giant fan that you're going to get the best out of Arvell Reese, an unbelievably physically gifted young man. But how do you knock the pick in terms of when you're looking at outside, potentially, when you take Mendoza out of it, it was the number one guy on the Giants draft board. Maybe it was him or Love on a number of other draft boards across the National Football League, and you get him at pick 5, right? And then you look at Mayanoa, who they drafted 10th overall, who they're going to move inside, the plug-and-play guard, a guy that, as you pointed out, the conversation that you had with Sean O'Hara is a guy that took reps at guard when he was down in Miami. The Giants are comfortable in terms of the herniated disc in his back. It didn't really curtail him from being the player he was down in Miami. Obviously, coming from that program, his head coach, Mario Cristobal, was a legendary offensive lineman collegiately for the University of Miami as well, and has done some great work with offensive linemen. And has played in big games. So now you bring in a guy that's willing to do anything and everything. We talk about, building up this offensive line, having it be a non-issue, protect your second-year quarterback in Jackson Dart, dictate the style and tempo of the game, and you do that with your first 2 selections, right? And then you come back with Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee, in round number 3, and what's not to like, right? A lot of people thought he was a, top 25 player in this draft. He's sitting there with pick 37 in that second round, and he's also a guy that could be, adds depth immediately to your team. As John Harbaugh talked about, a pit bull for the New York Giants here moving forward. Conceivably, if you needed him, could be a starter day number 1, but is a guy that is a great press corner. If McCoy didn't have the issues that he had Tennessee defense with his knee, but coming out with those knee issues, clearly the best defensive back coming out of that Tennessee secondary with McCoy tearing his ACL, but nothing not to like about what he is going to provide in terms of Hood here moving forward. And then you get a weapon that you have in Malachi Fields. When you look at their top 4 picks, right? And they get him coming out of Notre Dame where speed-wise, Giants don't think it's going to be a non-issue. It doesn't think it's going to be an issue. He ran a 4.65 40. He topped out when you're looking at his speed at 21 miles an hour. But you're not using him as a deep threat. You're using him as an intermediary route runner, a guy that can go out there, make contested catches, something that he could do at Notre Dame, and is also going to be a big-time red zone threat here moving forward, because that's what you want to do, Paul, here is you want to create mismatches and opportunities for your quarterback to go out there and make some easy throws and have the confidence in guys. And what you saw from Malachi Fields, whether it be at Virginia or whether it be at Notre Dame, is the ability to go out there and make very, very difficult catches, because as we talked about on Sunday when you, John, and I were doing the show on WFAN, there's a difference in college between being open and the National Football League being open, right? In college football, and I'm not telling you that they're not blown coverages in the NFL. We see it each and every week. But for the most part, you're throwing guys open in the NFL if you're an NFL quarterback. And Jackson Dart's now got a big-time target in Malachi Fields.
Now, I realize Theo Johnson has to get his hands situation squared away because he had too many drops last season, and he knows that, and he already said he was going to train during the offseason to improve his catching style, if you will. But think about this. If you get down to the red zone, the Giants now have the opportunity to throw double tight ends with Likely and Johnson on the field and Malachi Fields.
Yeah.
How many secondaries are big enough across the board
to cover those guys? Like a starting front court in the NBA.
Right.
I mean, when you think about there's no question about it. And, and Theo Johnson had, some shoulder concerns coming out of Penn State, but he has shown you the ability to get open. Now he's got to show you the ability to go out there and build the confidence with the quarterback that when the ball does come his way, I'm not talking about the one-handed catches, the ridiculous catches that, NFL receivers and tight ends make each and every week. I'm talking about the ones that, are easy catches in the NFL. And Theo Johnson's got to go out there and make those catches. Yeah, but Paul, and that's really, you go through it, and teams are going to go out there and gamble on athletes, and look at size and the size speed quotient when you look. Here's what it comes down to. The Giants now have the ability to be able to, as you mentioned, with Likely, now with Malachi Fields, you throw in Theo Johnson, the size that they're bringing to the table, and to have to deal with that in the NFL red zone to go along with, Scatterbo and Malik Neighbors and Darnell Mooney and everything and the like, you have a lot of options if you're Matt Nagy now moving forward. And if I'm Jackson Dart, I'm smiling ear to ear.
Oh, you have to be.
Yeah.
Because the options that he has, not only have the Giants increased the amount of passing threats in Dart's repertoire, but they've also increased the variety of targets that he can go to. And that's what makes it great. They signed Calvin Austin, who's got great quicks and speed. Right? They add Fields, who is the skyscraper guy. They add Likely, who's another big, strong guy with a very large catch radius. I mean, and of course Mooney. I'm forgetting Mooney.
Yeah, and the other aspect when you look at Fields is, and people are going to say, well, he only ran a 4.65, right? But I think Puka Nacua, and Paul, you're great with this. I think he ran a 4.58, right? Puka Nacua is pretty good.
He was in the 4.5s,
right? I mean,
and by the way, Plexico Burress was a 4.59.
Yeah, right. So I mean, how do you play? How fast do you play with pads on, right?
That's it.
We're not in the Olympics. This is not a track and field competition. How quick do you play with your pads on? The other aspect of Malachi Fields that I think goes understated a little bit is his ability as a receiver to go out there and block, right? So
he's real good at it.
He's really good at it. So you look at, conceivably, say, the Los Angeles Rams. You look at McVay, right? All those receivers talented, but they're also really good blockers. And that's another aspect when you look at Fields. Now, you're not going to draft a wide receiver in the third round that just his strength is his blocking. No, there's other aspects to it, but you're drafting a complete football player that can help you in other avenues, especially when you look at an offense that with Scatterbo and Tracy, they're going to want to run the football, right? This is going to be an offense that, is not going to be a one-trick pony. It's not going to just be the Jackson Dart show. They want to be balanced throughout. And when you go back to the great Giant teams, the teams that were hoisting up the Vince Lombardi trophy at the end of the football season, the ability to go out there and run late in the season when the opponent knows you want to run the football and you still can run the football. That determines how good of a running team you are. I think under Harbaugh, based on even outside of having Derrick Henry, you want to be able to run the football. I think the Giants will in 26.
The efficiency of a situational running game, I have always said, is the most important component to a balanced attack. Because you don't have to rank fifth like the Giants did last year in running the ball. You have to be able to do it when you want to do it.
Yes.
That's the key. It's not about the cumulative number. It's about being able to do it when you want to do it or you need to do it. not necessarily spread it out throughout the course of the day. It's interesting that you mentioned Malachi Fields because our first two callers are all about the Notre Dame wide receiver. And we will go to Roberto in Florida. Let us have it, man. What do you think about Fields?
Oh, my God, Paul moves. I remember about 2 months, maybe something like that. I talked to Paul, and I said, Paul, I see playoffs. And Paul looked at me like, let's not go crazy and stuff, because, I knew from what we had, we were going to compete this year. But the draft this year and the acquisition and free agency is crazy. We're going to dominate on both sides of the ball.
Roberto, that's the plan, but until these guys play to the back of their football card, you can't be talking playoffs quite yet. No. But the plan is to get in that conversation.
Yeah, but Paulie, I'm going to remind you again because I honestly think with the problem with Daniel Jones and or whatever, Daniels for the Redskins and the problems with the Eagles that they've been having, I think we're going to win the division. But that's just me.
Okay.
That's not what I call
Roberto, can I just say, I love the excitement. And I love the fact we're sitting here, it's late April. Almost hitting the month of May. The draft is in the rearview mirror. We've gone through, a number of the undrafted free agents signing that didn't go drafted, and you're excited, and you should be, and you should, put on your Giant swag, and you should be excited about what this team and where this team is going.
The acquisition with the best defensive player in the draft, Reed. We got Edmund. Oh my God, and we got that crazy guy Kelly. Make him ready for next year. Make him ready because, I don't think we're going to keep number 5, whatever his name is. But listen, my thing is, can we afford to pay Singletary and that offensive lineman Smith? I think they're going to be. We're going to make a move with them. So, but the running game.
Wait a minute. Who is Smith? Who is Smith?
Schmitz.
Oh, John Michael Schmitz, the center.
Yes.
Well, yes. Singletary and Schmitz are both in the final year of their contracts. So if you're worried about 27 already, I would probably advise you to worry about 26 first.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about 27. We're Super Bowl bound. But listen.
There you go. L.A. in February. Love it, Roberto.
All right.
Listen, when my boy Dot start rolling, no back defense is going to be able to keep with those receivers. And listen, I'll let you go. You got a lot of callers.
Roberto, we appreciate it. Call again.
Look at that. Lay it on the line. It's April 28th. Roberto with the call. Super Bowl, L.A., February.
Moose, I've always lived my life glass
Win the division.
Half full.
That's it.
Right? I've always been glass half full. That's the way I do everything in my life. It's not just about the Giants.
You got to be positive. Why live negative, Paul?
Everything that I do is glass half full, but Roberto's glass is overflowing.
No doubt. But I'm here for it. We're all here for it. There's an excitement, Paul. You can get that.
I love it. I love
the
it.
Giants had themselves a great draft. So did you. So did Schmelk. So did everybody, when you're looking at it. And we'll see exactly how it translates on the field. But
it'd be great if his proclamation comes true.
And here's the thing with the Reese pick is, the Giants were due, as an organization for something to break their way, right? And I'm not telling you that Tate was not a good or bad pick, 4th overall. You understand why the Tennessee Titans did that. But to sit there with the 5th overall pick and have that caliber of player in a draft, Paul, that we all know is not unbelievably teeming with talent. Like there was probably 12, maybe 13 blue chip players in this draft, and the Giants got 2 of them.
But it happened twice, Moose.
I know.
Because then they're waiting to get down to 10, and Tyson and Fano get taken, allowing Mawanoga to drop to 10. They got lucky twice.
It was great. It was awesome.
My goodness. Mike in California, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, well, I'm with Roberto. I'm excited about this draft, but I want to talk a bit about Malachi. Because everybody's comparing him to Plaxico Burress, and I just hear red zone, red zone, red zone. Well, I have a different ask. If I'm one of his coaches, I put the 2007 NFC playoffs game against the Packers on a loop for him, and I just say, watch this game. All right, Burress went for 11 catches, 151 yards,
I know.
0
Where's
touchdowns.
Al Harris?
Every time we needed a first down, He's out there 7 yards. He's out there 9 yards. Bodies up the DB. Boom, first down. That's what I want from Malachi.
Mike, I hope that the Giants reinstitute the back shoulder throw into their playbook. Because, it's one of my all-time favorite plays. And when you have a guy who has the strength and the catch radius with the wingspan of a Malachi Fields, it should be an automatic first down whenever you want it.
It should be. There's no doubt. Yeah. And Mike, listen, if he's the player that Burris was when he was focused on the field, what he did in his NFL career, I mean, the Giants have hit an absolute home run, right? So I mean, those are
Absolutely.
lofty expectations that you're putting on him, and Plaxico Burris at Michigan State was ridiculous, right? So you look at Malachi Fields, I think when you're going through this draft process and the amount of time that you spend through it, and you go through the interviews and you go through the individual pro days and the Indianapolis Scouting Combine, and then you got to stick to your board, which we talked about time and time again. And the Giants had a second-round grade on Malachi Fields, and that's why they decided to move up when they did to go get the Notre Dame wide receiver. And as Paul and I mentioned and articulated to start the program today, is that he presents them an option and gives them a tool and gives Jackson Dart in this offense a tool, something they did not have at that position, which makes it exciting in terms of now you got to use him and he's got to go out there and continue to develop.
But that's the key. I mean, they said that we got a power forward, right? And what makes a power forward great in basketball is the way he uses his body.
Exactly.
And, you look at the modern NFL, allows a lot of contact, a lot of hand checking. You just can't extend your arms, but you sure can run a route into the body of the DB, turn and get that first down pass. And I haven't seen that on the Giants. I don't know, maybe since Plax, but that play, like you call it back shoulder, Paul, I'm going to call it bully boy body up.
Okay.
Body up the
Nice.
DB.
Sure, Mike. I think the key about Burris was that not only was he that kind of player, but he was able to be a go-to guy to where he had 3,000-yard seasons for the Giants. You're not going to see that out of Malachi Fields. I think we need to make that clear to the fans out there. I don't think he's going to be the high-volume guy, but he's going to be the clutch guy. He'll make clutch first downs. He'll make clutch grabs in the red zone for touchdowns. He'll make a big third down conversion. He's going to make important catches for this team, but he may not have, 75 grabs for 1,000 yards. I don't want to confuse him with Plex in that way.
Yeah, and we brought Burris in as an already established star and gave him a ton of money, and he was one of the main focuses of that offense.
Yes.
I agree with you that, but I'll just leave with this again, like just put him down in front of that game against the Packers and say, that's you, man. That's what you got to be the bully.
Yeah, be a bull. And Mike, thanks a lot for the call. A little bit of bully football. The one thing that you hope is that, the conversation or the talking point where you mentioned it with Theo Johnson, been an issue at times with Darius Slayton, went away early in his career. The thing that makes you excited about Malachi, you got to be sure-handed here. The drop passes, Paul, have been too much of a talking point. And too big of an issue here for the last year and a half. And that is something that needs to come to an end, especially, and listen, there are difficult catches to make in the National Football League each and every week that, NFL receivers and tight ends make look ridiculously easy because they're that athletically talented. But we've seen some drops here, and not just the Giants across the NFL, but for Giants focused here, where there are catches that need to be made, and that can no longer be a talking point here moving forward. So whatever Theo Johnson needs to work on, there's clearly, when you look at Darius Slayton, it's not a matter of him getting separation or getting off the line, and it was an issue or a talking point for him coming out of college at Auburn, but wasn't a talking point early on in his Giant career. Has become too big of a talking point as of late, and Darius understands that, but that needs to come to an end, and that's what makes you excited about Fields is the sure-handedness that he had at Notre Dame.
Mike, I'm going to give you a couple of numbers here referring to off of what Moose just said. I'm a big guy who can't stand drops. I mean, it just makes me incensed.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I grade them very difficult. I'm rough on drops, all right? I grade them like a wide receivers coach, and I'm very, very, very rough on them. I had the Giants for 38 drops last year. Now, I'm sorry, 36 drops last year. Now, here's the important part about it. 18 of those drops were first down throws beyond the sticks. Think about that.
Yeah.
Drive killers.
Drive extenders. Right. Yeah. Drive killers or drive extenders. Those are drops.
Okay.
18 of them.
12 of them were on third down. 2 of them were on fourth down. You can't have those. That's what Malachi Fields will solve here. This guy makes plays. He's efficient. He will not leave plays on the field. He will run the route he's supposed to run. He will catch the ball he's supposed to catch. He will catch the ball he's not supposed to catch. Yeah. And he will also block downfield to get your running back an extra 8 yards when he breaks into the second level of the defense. Malachi Fields finishes plays for his teammates. That's what I love about Malachi Fields. He will not leave yards on the gridiron. I want to make that very clear because the Giants have been doing that far too much in the last several years.
Yeah, no question. And that's where, and it's just with Fields, with everybody in this offense here moving forward, Paul, is that you want that to no longer be a talking point. Just like the offensive line was too big of a talking point for way too long since the Giants last won their Super Bowl in 2011, and a myriad of different, whether it be draft picks, whether it be free agency, different regimes, different coaching staffs, different front offices, everything. And now you look at it where you put your head to the pillow at night if you're a Giant fan and you feel really good about this top 5 group and the depth that they have in this organization in terms of the offensive line.
Back to the phones. John in Cape Cod, you're next to the program. Hello. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nice to see you guys on the show, Moose, Paul.
John?
I wanted to get on because you got a couple of guys with depth of experience that remembers the Giants from years back. I think they hit it out of the park on the draft. And what I see with Malachi Fields is another one of those guys that has average speed, needs to clean up his routes, but he's got incredible hands and he knows how to use his body and goes up in traffic. I'll jump back further than Plexico, Paul, and you can tell me after we get off. He reminds me of possession receivers from Giants from years back, like Eddie McCaffrey and Joe Juravicius.
Mm-hmm.
This kid Kelly that they drafted is a real junkyard dog. I know he's a little rough, but boy, he's got a great motor, and I think he'll be a star on special teams and get some place on situations on the field. I can't find any faults in the draft at all. We're in the golden age of spin, and it's just amazing to me how many people, because of what we used to call paralysis through analysis, all this business about Reese being an edge rusher, that's the media. You got to sift through it. And for you guys, it makes it even tougher because you're listening to all these people that are watching so much media that their perception was that the Giants passed up Styles and took an edge rusher. They took a better linebacker. They played side by side on Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, and I love Styles, but Reese is just more. If Styles is an A, Reese is an A+.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, and John, I'll be honest with you, I think they're both going to be great. I mean, I think Styles is going to be great for Washington, and I think Arvell Reese is going to be great for the New York Giants. I think it's a little bit more of a projection where you've only scratched the surface with Arvell Reese, right? He's only a one-year starter. He was blocked.
Yep.
I mean, there were 8 guys last year. You go back 2 years ago, there were 8 guys on that Ohio State defense that were drafted into the National Football League, right?
All 11 starters got taken this year.
I mean, ridiculous. So you look at the talent for the Buckeyes, and then you look at Reese, who had been talked about collegiately, as being this, freaky linebacker for years if you've been following along out there in Columbus. And now all of a sudden he's in the draft. And there was a big buildup in terms of where he was going to get selected. But there's no projection right? So the Jets ended up taking Bailey with the second overall pick because they took the best edge rusher in the NFL draft out of Texas Tech.
Right.
You have to project when you're looking at Arvell Reese, if you're going to move him conceivably to just being an edge guy. The Giants are going to use him the way that he was used at Ohio State. So, like, that's the exciting aspect. And then be creative. Like, someone asked me, well, where are they going to play him? I go, everywhere. Like, Arvell Reese is going to play everywhere. He's going to play all over the place. Like, he is an unbelievable player.
Yes.
Like, you should be excited. And I understand today's day and age, everyone wants to go out there and be critical. I don't see how you criticize the pick, especially when he's sitting there and you went through everything and he's the top-rated non-quarterback on your board. You stick to your board and take the most talented player that's sitting there with the 5th overall pick, and that's what the Giants did.
John, before we let you go, when you're sitting around the table with some of your old-time Giants friends who go back to the Yankee Stadium days, and you talk about Malachi Fields, I want you to throw out the name of Aaron Thomas, too, okay?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Or how about Joe Morris that could play every position except line?
Joe Morrison, I think,
offense.
wound up playing six different positions in an NFL game by the time he retired, believe it or not. Yeah. But anyway, Aaron Thomas was 6'5". He was a 210-pound receiver / sometimes pseudo tight end. And that's why I kind of bring him up, because he's more of Fields' body type and didn't have blazing speed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. How about Bob Tucker?
Well, he was a flat-out tight end, though.
Hey, John, can I ask you just
I know that, but he was Mark Bavaro before Mark Bavaro. I'm just happy to see a re-emphasis on linebackers.
Yeah,
because I still think that unless you have a wealth of talent on the line, that the 3-4 defense is the best defense. The 86 Giants were the best Giant team I ever saw, and I've been watching them since my first game when I was 13 at Yankee Stadium, watching Sam Huff and Greer and Patton and all those guys. And I think there's nowhere to go but up for this team.
Thank you, John.
John, thanks a lot. Enjoy those lobster rolls up there in Cape Cod. I think when I grew up watching the Giants, Paul, Carson, Banks, Taylor, Reasons,
the Crunch Bunch.
I mean, it was, and so now you're looking at a group, and I know there's been a lot of speculation about the future of Kayvon Thibodeau, but hopefully, Kayvon's healthy, a part of this group. You've got linebackers with Edmonds being brought aboard after he was let go by the Chicago Bears. You throw in Arvell Reese. You can be multiple. You want to be multiple. You talked about having guys where, standing up at the line of scrimmage, you're making the offense think. What happens when an offense thinks? It's playing a little bit slower. So that's what you don't want to have happen if you're an opposing offense, and that's what the Giants want to do. And you got a defensive coordinator that I think is going to be really, really creative. And he's been given the pieces in order to do that.
BB in New York, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, how guys? How are you guys doing?
What's up, BB?
How you doing?
Good. I had a question about Malachi Fields. I'm hoping everything guys say about him is great. I know you emphasize the hands, which I'm watching, listening to some of the analysts, a couple of ex-players talk about a lot of other good things. My question, I think it was an ex-wide receiver, it might have been somebody else, but he was talking about, I hate to say after the catch because the routes that they were showing, and he did say something about he needs to improve on his routes, but he was running maybe a little longer routes, but he was talking about deceptive speed running. And nobody, well, I don't say nobody's mentioned it, but everyone's talking about obviously tall and high point, all those great things, but he was saying that he was running, getting a lot of yardage after the catch. He's mentioned it. One guy mentioned it 2 or 3 times. And I saw, what do I know? I was just watching a little bit of the tape, but it looked like he was going by people after he caught the ball.
His GPS was between 19 and 21 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so GPS is the play speed because they attach the technology chip to the inside of the shoulder pads, and that's how they're able to grade that stuff. And so when Joe Shane said, people want to talk about the 4.6 time at the combine, they could do that all they like, but the GPS says he's running between 19 and 21 miles an hour. Who's going to complain about that?
Nobody.
So is that's the new measure? That's the new measurement with pads on the field that they they measure?
Yes, but the combine hasn't caught up to that yet. We're still in caveman age when it comes to the combine because we're running 40s in shirts and shorts.
I understand. Well, it did look like that when the gentleman was showing the good and the things he needs to work on. It looked like he was blasting. If he could do both.
Yeah, I don't listen.
That would be great.
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily, and BB, thanks a lot for the call. I don't know if you're necessarily going to get somebody that's going to be that pure deep threat to him, but I don't think his playing speed is indicative by the 4.65 40. And you mentioned it in terms of the GPS, 19 to 21 miles an hour. That is good enough. Paul, have you ever put one of those on?
No, I have not.
We should do that this off season. We should have you out there, put one of those GPS and see what Dottino tops out at. Like, we should measure everybody here and see exactly what we all top out at. What do you think you top out at?
I was timed at 14.5 seconds in the 40 with my power walk.
14.5.
Yeah.
That's pretty good with your power walk.
Yeah.
Now, is that like the true power walk?
No, that's when I'm
moving the hips?
When I'm going.
When you're going. 14, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I mean, I don't know if it'll...
You don't run at all?
No, it's bad for the joints.
Ever. Like,
No. When you run, you put extra pressure on your hips, your knees, and your ankles.
Okay.
My cardiologist told me years ago, he's like, don't ever run. People who run all the time, they're going to be sorry later in life.
Look at that.
So what you want to do
There's my inherent excuse right there.
What you want to do is power walk is the best exercise.
Power walk.
Power walking is the best exercise.
Nice. I'll give you a call. Maybe you can give me some tips on power walking when I'm walking my dog.
Jay, does he walk you?
He does walk me. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Chip does. He's only 2. He walks me. There's no doubt.
You're calling us from Phoenix, Jay. What's the weather out there? Good afternoon.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's up, Jay?
Hey, Mark, this is the first time I've had a chance to talk to you when I call in, and I just want to let you know, man, every time I hear you, whether it's on this show or on The Fan or anywhere else, I always have enjoyed it. So I appreciate you can tell you're a Giant fan, and you do a great job. So
thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
Glad that you're on the team.
You got it. Thanks for making it.
You guys are talking about mile per hours. Jay from Phoenix clocks in at 4.75 in the 40 back when I was in high school. So
that's pretty good.
Tight end.
4.75. That's good.
Okay.
That's not too bad.
Not at all.
I was calling about 2 things, really. So but it's going to turn into really. I'll be real quick. First of all, the Malachi Fields. We were talking about him watching Plaxico Burress against the Packers. Have him also watch Amani Toomer the week before against the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. I personally feel that he's a nice combo of the 2 of them. When you look at what they do, remember all those catches where Amani would lean out and would dive and catch things.
Phenomenal on the sidelines. He was twinkle toes Toomer.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, he's incredible. I love Monty Toomer. Mm-hmm. But then, when we talk about in the draft with the Arvell Reese pick, and I was surprised as well that people have reacted so negatively, but at some point during the process, I didn't think we were going to get him. I was stuck on Sonny Styles as well. And I started to watch Sonny Styles and see something I didn't like, which was he has great range. He makes awesome tackles, but he's very he uses his arms a lot, not a lot of shoulder thumping. And then I said, well, let me just check out Reese. And when I started watching Reese, I'm like, can we just draft this guy, throw number 58 on him, and put him in the middle of our defense? Because, he is just the force that he hits people with is just awesome. Just incredible.
It's going to be fun.
And
he's a stronger player in terms of the upper body. There's no doubt about that. And one of the questions, and even though I was a huge Styles fan, Jay, let me just say this. The one small shred of doubt that I had about Sonny Styles, if you look at his frame, tall, slender, svelte frame, remember, he's a converted safety, okay?
Yep.
What happens when a 340-pound NFL guard gets to the second level and tries to take him on head on? All right, Sonny Styles won most of his matchups at that level by running around people and slithering around people. That's not as easy to do at the NFL level as it is to do at the NCAA level. So that means there are going to be a bunch of guards who will get their hats and their shoulder pads into his chest. he may not be quite as effective as he was at Ohio State. Again, I think he's going to be an all-star caliber player, and I was all behind potentially taking him if that's the guy who was left on the board. But Arvell Reese is a more powerful player. He's a little sturdier. He's more of a true linebacker than Sonny Styles is. And so to me, that's part of the difference why there was no doubt in my mind that if both of them were on the board, you had to take Reese.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Exactly. And I was excited when they drafted him. So my last person I want to talk about, then I'll end with this. So I've mentioned it before when I've called in. I'm a BYU graduate, so I went to BYU. And Jack Kelly has been my favorite player for BYU for the last couple of years. And I was beyond thrilled when they drafted him to the Giants. I was here at the house. I'm 50 years old, and I'm getting so excited about, this 23-year-old kid who's joining my team. Freaks my dogs out. We are going to love Jack Kelly. He reminds me a lot of Micah McFadden's film when you see how he was able to rush the passer and things like that. But he's going to be a really good player. Like you said, he'll be great on special teams. He's great depth. And I think it'll be fun to watch him develop. And he does have a little bit of Scadaboo in him. And what's fun is because they both play in the Big 12, Scadaboo and Kelly, you can see games where they played against each other. And you can see, there's a great play where Jack Kelly nails him in the backfield for like a 2-yard loss.
Well, Jay, what I'm going to do next time I see Scadaboo, I'm going to ask him about Jack Kelly.
Yeah,
we're going to see what he says.
Yeah. Get the two of them together. It will be fun to hear them talk to each other in an interview or something like that.
Thanks, Jay.
Fun with that.
Be good. Appreciate the call.
Kelly by poolside as well, talking about the fact of excited to be drafted by the Giants. I saw that on social media as well in the backyard. I imagine that's his parents or loved ones. But, I think the Giants where the quality of the player, what he was as a BYU, but what he could provide for this team. And, Paul, you have guys they're obviously drafted to where what are they going to be asked to do initially? And asked to do initially is probably going to be, well, we need to be a special teams demon. And there's no doubt about it when you look at Jack Kelly, what he potentially could be for this team, especially year number one.
And we know that John Harbaugh, with his original special teams background from the Philadelphia Eagles, this is a guy who came here and said, I think we need to upgrade the specials. They got an all-pro punter, an all-pro kicker, a coverage guy now in the draft.
They even signed the Michigan kicker.
Indeed. They got 3 kickers on this roster right now. That's pretty nuts.
Including the lefty who was pretty good last year. Sauls was good last year. The kid out of Pitt.
So, in any event, there is no question that John Harbaugh has got his sticky fingers into the special teams unit, and the Giants plan on dominating that part of the game each and every Sunday. I want to quickly just go to Jammin' Peacock 7172. Interesting name there. As a huge Giants and BYU fan, I absolutely love the Jack Kelly pick. BYU had an incredible season last year, and Kelly was arguably the most impactful player on the roster, steal of the draft. And Shamike Boyd says Jack Kelly is the Cam Scadaboo of the defense. So obviously a couple of Kelly fans right off the top. So I wanted to get those in while we were taking that phone call. And Richard Roberts, P4K, says, any news on John Harbaugh meeting with OBJ? Great job on draft coverage. Well, thank you for that. Harbaugh had said he hoped to talk to OBJ on Tuesday.
Today.
And find out if there was a fit from OBJ's angle and a fit from the Giants' angle, and they would leave the door open and kind of see how that conversation went before making any determination.
Yeah, I'm curious exactly, and he came in, did a physical, did a workout. By all accounts, report accounts that everything went really, really well. Obviously, John Harbaugh has talked about, his affinity for Odell Beckham Jr., first-round draft choice by the Giants in 2014, and we will know where Odell Beckham now would be, where he is at this stage of his career. I'm just curious of how that would look, right? When John Harbaugh says it's got to make sense for all parties involved. Like exactly how would that look to where you're bringing in a veteran wide receiver, been there, done that, familiarity. Younger guys can lean on Odell Beckham Jr., good and bad, positives and everything that came along with it, and I'm sure he's looking for an opportunity to kind of bring his career full circle and familiarity with the organization. It'd be interesting to see, if that indeed, if you connect the dots and Beckham is brought in back into the building, exactly how would that look for all parties, from a Harbaugh perspective, bringing in a veteran like Odell Beckham Jr., and then what the expectations for Beckham would be here moving forward.
I think it's quite clear the way Harbaugh talked about him that if he did come in, he would have to understand that A, he's not the go-to guy on this receiving core anymore, and B, he would have to be kind of like the big brother in the room and would be asked to, I don't know if mentor is the right word, but certainly show some of the ropes to some of these other younger receivers about how they can accelerate their game and their learning process.
Right, and then it's a numbers game, right? It's a numbers game when you're looking at the roster.
Sure.
Too, and what exactly, because you're right in terms of he's not going to be the go-to guy. Listen, the go-to guy is going to be Neighbors as long as his ACL is back, right? I mean, and he coming back from that injury. And then the other options that you have on this team, Mooney, we've talked about Malachi Fields. You mentioned in terms of Austin, you throw in Isaiah Likely, Theo
Slayton
Johnson.
is still here.
Slayton is still here. So exactly where is he on that depth chart? And then what are so if he's not the go-to guy, if you're looking at him and he's not going to necessarily be a top 3 wide receiver on this team, then what other roles is he performing for this organization from, a roster perspective in order to say, okay, he should be here?
He's not going to play special teams, Moose.
I know. No, I agree with you, but let me ask you this. If they bring Odell Beckham Jr. here, do you think he's a starting receiver? Do you think he's a top 3 receiver? No.
I think the only way that I think this works for the Giants is if they tell him, no promises at all. If you want to come in here and you want to work your wares during the spring, and even if you want to come to training camp, maybe that's okay, but we're looking at you as either a long shot to make it or an insurance policy if some guys get hurt. Because you can't give him any guarantees or promises. I don't think it's fair to the other people who have been here, who are in the middle of their careers, who haven't been injured as much as he has.
Right.
And also, quite frankly, are we forgetting? Odell Beckham didn't play football last year.
No, did not. And then and that's where we all love the story, right? And it's an unbelievable story. And you understand, and I think you're probably right where you bring them in and give them an opportunity, and let's see exactly where it goes. And it might not go anywhere, and it might go somewhere, but we can't guarantee you that it's definitely going to go somewhere.
Do you remember when Mario Manningham came back from San Francisco?
I do, yes.
He had destroyed his knee and tried to make a comeback the following year with the Giants. He came to training camp, and he could not make the team. David Tyree had gone to Baltimore. Came back to the Giants, tried to make the team, could not make the team. I remember Brandon Jacobs came back, made the team, had a 100-yard rushing game in a primetime battle against Chicago. Then his knee swelled up, blew up, and basically he went to injury reserve and his career was over.
Right.
Hakeem Nicks came back. After he was with the Colts, he was so badly injured, but he came back and he signed here, was here for a number of games, barely even had a target, and then wound up retiring. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I appreciate the story as Moose has suggested, but
it would be great.
But to immediately think that because the OBJ name could be back in the building, he is going to be a significant contributor to this offense, I think that's a reach.
Well, right, and the other aspect of it at this stage, and I would agree with you, Paul, the other aspect is you're here to win games, right? And you don't want it in terms of allow the story to get out in front of the development of, say, a Fields or this offense or anything that comes along with that. So that's where it is. Listen, it would be an amazing story. And we'll see. And, clearly, the Giants had, as an organization, had him in the building for a workout and a physical for a reason. We'll see exactly where those conversations, if indeed it does happen today at some point in time, maybe it's already happened and we don't know, right? But John Harbaugh mentioned it last week or over the course of the weekend that, he and Odell will have a conversation today at some point in time. We'll see exactly where it goes.
I'll say this. If he does come in and is willing to work under the parameters that John Harbaugh and Joe Schoen and ownership has given him, more power to him, because he'll have an opportunity to prove that he does deserve, a shot. And if he earns it, well, you know what? That's good for the Giants then, because anytime somebody wins a competition, that means you have upgraded your spot.
No doubt, 100%. And competition is king, and that's it. As as the Giants went out there and and drafted Hood in the second round, the cornerback out of Tennessee, what did John Harbaugh say? We've added a pit bull into that room, right?
There's 4 corners now.
Now you got 4 corners, right? And let the competition lead the way. And that's what you want as an NFL head coach. The problem you have is when you don't have great competition in the room and you don't have great competition in the practice field, it doesn't sharpen you to get ready for game day. The Giants have just that.
Well, it also means you're settling.
Yes.
And anytime you settle in this league, you have weakened your roster.
I would agree with that. And so, and listen, we'll see where it goes. And I think for Giant fans, you got to understand, this is not prime Odell Beckham Jr., right? And that's the other aspect of it. And tamper down the expectations of potentially the impact on this team. But it's a fantastic story. We'll see exactly where it goes.
All right, we'll go to Rich in Florida. Now, Rich, I think we probably answered your question and or comment about OBJ with our last 5 or 6 minute dissertation. But if you wanted to throw something onto the fire, go right ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, Godfather and Moose. Yeah, I totally agree with your discussion on Odell. In my opinion, Giants have absolutely nothing to lose bringing him in. But the second question is, did we get a comp pick for Wan'Dale?
As it stands now, the comp formula has not been executed by the league. You won't know that until going into next year's draft. But it is likely, Joe Shane himself said, they are thinking that there is a legitimate chance that they will get perhaps a 4th-round comp pick by the time all the calculations are done next spring. Because remember, the comp formula not only depends on the contracts that were signed, but also the guy's playing time and what he does during the season. So you can't actually compute that number or the draft choice, if you will, until going into next spring.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I thought it was going to be after 4 p.m. yesterday.
No. That deadline was to add to the comp formula. In other words, once 4 o'clock yesterday came to pass, any free agents that you signed afterwards will not count against you in the compensatory formula. That's what that deadline was about. It had nothing to do with coming to a conclusion of what the number is going to be. All it did was say that we will not include any post 4 p.m. guys in it.
Okay, great. And like I said in the YouTube, great job on the draft coverage. Just absolutely outstanding. And I will say, like with my colleagues, haven't seen every game since 1961. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I thought the draft was really good. But as my colleagues always tell me, let's show it on the field. And one thing I'm really impressed with, and I think Bob Papa said it today on his Believe podcast there, when you look at Shane and Coach Harbaugh on those pressers, just a different attitude with John Harbaugh. He's giving you some information. And the guy just, he just has the it factor. You can just see it. You can see it in the leadership qualities that he has. So very, very refreshing. I'm just so delighted that they got him.
Yeah, and Rich, thanks a lot for the call. It's the non-Belichickian way of answering questions to the media. And I think you can go about doing it however way you do. If you are hired by a team to be an NFL head coach, however, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a case as a head coach to where all information is, you have to be drawn out of you, like you're squeezing lemon juice from a lemon. And I think Harbaugh is very confident, as he should be, a Super Bowl winning head coach. Had 18 years down in Baltimore, comes here excited for the opportunity. Fan base is all fired up, and I think he's been open and forthright. And I think his interviews that he's done has been very, very refreshing, given exactly what we've seen across the National Football League for the most part, but as of late with the Giants.
Harbaugh brings a certain assertiveness to the building.
Yeah.
Just when he steps onto the property. And look, why shouldn't he? 12 playoff appearances with the Super Bowl championship in 18 years as coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I have not looked at the all-time percentages and in terms of his playoff percentage, in terms of appearances, where that ranks ranks amongst the coaches of the last 50 years. But I'll tell you what, I'll sign up for 12 out of 18 anytime.
Oh, no doubt. And it's also looked different, right? He won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, has had remarkable success with Lamar Jackson. The offense hasn't been, the same offense and one and the same, right? So the ability to adjust, adapt, right? The old cliche in life, adapt or die, right? So John Harbaugh has been able to do that. He didn't get that job down in Baltimore with all the fanfare. Obviously, his brother Jim was a quarterback with the Indianapolis Colts, but was part of Reed's staff in Philadelphia as a special teams coach, or the head of special teams, and gets that job down in Baltimore and has been an unbelievable head coach. He really has been. And you're right. I think there is a presence. And I think there is a confidence among Giant fans here based on what you've seen from John Harbaugh down in Baltimore and the expectations about what he is going to be as Giants head coach moving forward.
In the interest of patting ourselves on the back, I will read Michael Finkelstein, 3405's comment on YouTube. He says, I've been watching shows, listening to radio before the George Michael Sports Machine, which, by the way, we both remember.
Oh, yeah. Sunday nights.
Great program it was.
That's it.
Watching Warner and Sal.
The big play button.
Yep.
Used to hit.
The birth of ESPN and, of course, The Fan. This has become my all-time favorite show.
Wow, look at that.
Holy smokes. BBK going into the Michael Finkelstein 3405 Hall of Fame.
That is a long Twitter handle, by the way.
He can make it as long as he wants if he's going to compliment us like
that's
that.
That's true. You're right about that.
201-939-4513. Len in Columbia is next on the show. Hello, Len.
Hey, guys.
Good morning.
With regard to the draft, what's not to like?
You tell me, or should we ask Charlie? Charlie will probably tell us what's not to like, right?
The first 11 picks, those were the first 11 guys who probably should have gone. We just didn't know where they were going to go and who they were going to go to, at what point in the draft they were going to get picked. And, a couple of guys were there when we were to pick, and, that's part of this thing. You got to get a little lucky, too.
Sure.
But, I mean, those are two terrific football players. I'm not terribly surprised. I mean, first of all, I was surprised that they were both where they were. But I'm not surprised that Harbaugh went in that direction. I mean, there were several combinations that it could have been. The favorite one probably would have been Styles and Downs, but I'm not surprised that Harbaugh went where he went. I mean, he kind of told us from his first press conference what his vision and philosophy is as to how you win football games, and this was it. A middle linebacker has always been key to his defense, and he got a good young guy there, and a big, powerful offensive line has always been part of his offense. Stop the run the ball. So I was not surprised of all the combinations that there could be there. Again, we got lucky with the availability. That's the way it is. But I think a lot of new coaches to a team, head coaches to a team. Even McCarthy in Pittsburgh, 12 picks, 8 of them on offense. I mean, these guys try to mold their team in an image that they think will win football games and get teams to the playoffs. I mean, I think we saw it a lot during this particular draft. And again, McCarthy is a prime example of that. So, I'm happy with what we got. And I think this is in the Harbaugh lane.
Yeah.
As we worked our way through the draft, I don't know. Hood's a good player. There's no question. There were some people who had him in the first round. Mm-hmm. So he's a darn good player. But Paul Moose, let me ask you a question. 5 picks after we picked, Miller went, the defensive tackle. 10 picks after we picked Hood, Horton went. What did you think of that? Did you have any thought about going D-tackle there?
Len, I'm going to give you 2 thoughts here, and you can interpret them any way you like, but I'm just going to give them to you straight. Number 1, the Giants went with the best player on the board in each of their slots in this draft. They were loyal to that philosophy. Hood is a 6-foot cover corner whose man-to-man and press skills, as you said, got him mentioned in the late first round of a lot of drafts. The Giants were not just drafting for 2026. They were also drafting for down the road. They've got Newsome under a 1-year deal. They've got Banks, who expires at the end of this season. And they've got Adebo, who definitely underachieved last year. So by drafting Hood, they're not just looking at the fact they've got 4 corners to compete in 26, but now they have Adebo and Hood under contract for next season and beyond. Same thing with Mawanoa. Offensive line, interior offensive line. Right now, Mawanoa and Bo are the only 2 interior offensive linemen who are under contract for 27 and beyond. You have to put these things also into the pot when you start churning the stew. And so that's number one. They went with best guy on the board in each round. The second item that I'd love you to digest is John Harbaugh clearly wanted guys who were bigger framed, with length, with strength, and in the case of the trenches, power. Well, these are all things that George Young and Bill Parcells built the late 80s Giants championship teams on. That philosophy was very, very strong back in the day, and even Tom Coughlin subscribed to a lot of the similar things because he came from the Parcells tree. The last 4 Giants coaches before John Harbaugh did not subscribe to all of those things. They were more interested in athleticism and speed and smarts and other stuff.
Well, old school football.
You know, old school football is back. Harbaugh is bringing a lot of Parcells stuff back to the building.
On a couple of things, I heard everything you said, and it's hard to disagree. We may have different, little different point of view here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me. With regard to Parcells and George Young and Coach Harbaugh, there's no question. Their philosophy, if they boiled it down to a very, very few words, good big men beat good little men.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, I think that's what those 3 guys, and it's so true in pro football, obviously. And now, Paul, I'm going to call you out on something, with all due respect now, and don't get angry with me. I'm just going to call you out on something here, but please respond. Earlier today, somebody called in and started talking about 27, 28, and both you guys said, don't worry about 27, said worry about 26, and now you're going back to 27
No.
He was to be on the contract.
He was worried. He was worrying about signing guys like Singletary and John Michael Schmitz for 27. You don't worry about those contracts right now. What you worry about is putting this team on the field, figuring out who your best 53 are. But in terms of your draft, you have to always think about some of that stuff. It must come into play.
Yeah, okay.
That's all.
To quote Lance, it's a year-to-year league, and you got to focus on this upcoming year. So I think we all understand that they stay true to their board with Hood.
Yes.
But Paul and Moose, do you agree with that?
I do, and Len, thanks a lot for the call. I mean, I do. I mean, I think that's what I think you get into trouble if you're drafting players and reaching for players to address need. And I don't think you want, as an NFL team, obviously after free agency, Paul, you don't want to go in with glaring needs. And obviously the Giants went into this NFL draft after the trade with the Bengals and never going to replace what Dexter Lawrence was at defensive tackle for the New York Giants here, the player that he has been here. But now he's a member of the Cincinnati Bengals, given this defensive tackle class. But but you can replicate it in the aggregate in terms of your overall defensive scheme. Maybe not have the great individual player in Dexter Lawrence, but I think you draft best available player. Quarterback's different, right? Put quarterback on an island, right? When you need a quarterback, obviously we've seen teams go out there, convince themselves in terms of quarterback class or a quarterback prospect, Paul. But I think you got to stay true to your board. I really do, because then I think you start missing players. and you start missing guys that can go out there and help out your team overall, even if it's not a pressing need for your group, pressing need for your organization, feel comfortable with it. Talent is talent, and I think that when you bring in upper echelon talent, it raises the level of the entire team. So I think the Giants got it right.
I think two things. Number one, Joe Schoen did admit that when the value is like relatively tissue paper thin, you have to let need kind of creep into the equation, but that's about the only time you can. It's got to be really, really close. And obviously, the defensive tackle and the corner were not close.
No.
Hood must have had a much better grade for them to take him. Because if it was razor thin, I suspect they might have taken
I'm curious what they thought and where Caden McDonald was on their board.
We'll never know because he was already gone.
I know, I understand that. But my point being is the Texans moved up in front of the Giants, drafted McDonald out of Ohio State, and the Giants ended up taking Colton, who I'm curious on the board. And I don't know the answer, but it's an interesting thing to think about in terms of if McDonald was there, where would the Giants have gone with that selection?
And I think
he wasn't.
And I think the other item that we have to remember here when talking about, best player available and then kind of factoring in need and everything else, there's always the post-draft plan. Trust me, Joe Schoen and Harbaugh said at the post-draft press conference, we've got some plans in free agency. We've still got some tinkering we're going to do. They added $13.5 million to their cap in the
got
trade
money to play with.
of Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
So they've got a plan part 2, if you will, a plan B. They've got one. And we'll probably see that unfold in the next several hours or the next coming days. They're not sitting pat with what they got in the draft. There is another section to the plan. And until that unfolds, I would just say try to hold on to your question or criticism. You know what I mean?
I would agree with that. It's not the painting's not done. Right?
Exactly.
So, it's not done.
Oh, so, I like that.
So that's it, right? The last brush stroke has not been done as of yet.
The pasta's not cooked yet, baby.
We got to get into it sometime this offseason. I just found something with Dottino's eating habits, which is very, very odd. But we'll get into it at some point this offseason.
And finally, Michael Finkelstein, we end with this comment. He says, don't sleep on Jack Kelly. You inspired me to watch his film the other day. This kid could be a future Mike, I think is what he meant, Mike linebacker, giving future optionality to the big four, Tibbs, Carter, Burns, and Reese. Michael, thank you so much for your patronage of our program. That'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. For the Moose, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you again next time.